This is Veracity Vector, our novel way to discuss controversial topics. At first glance, it looks like just a regular Wikipedia-style page where facts about the moon are listed in this case. But once I hover over the statements, it becomes apparent it's a little bit different. I can click on each statement. For instance, the moon is Earth's only natural satellite, and I can get a little bit into the weeds. I can see that it has 15 sources and 2 disputes, but it has not been edited for 4 years, and the most relevant sources are relatively tame articles. But still, I can suggest a change right from here anonymously. Let's have some fun with this mechanic and say we're a moon landing denier. The last sentence here is, man first set foot on the moon July 20 in 1969. We obviously know better. Let's suggest the change that it's a common misconception that man first set foot on the moon July 20, 1969. However, this has just been an elaborate hoax by the United States government to bankrupt the Soviet Union. In that case, Veracity Pilot comes back and says, very similar changes have been proposed 64 times, of which 0 have led to changes being granted. Do you want to see the relevant past debates? So the Veracity Pilot went down the debate graph and found these debates and says, hey, you don't have to continue arguing. You're free to, but maybe arm yourself with more arguments from the past debates. Obviously, we know much better and simply say, nah, that's not necessary. See, I have this document where a researcher neatly collected all of his findings and a link to a PDF. I submit this. The Veracity Pilot goes out, fetches that PDF, reads it, and then comes back and says, oh, your source document contains the following problems. It lists several logical fallacies in this case. First one being ad hominem, NASA being untrustworthy in the author's eyes and ignoring the scientific arguments made, or the false dilemma. And in the end, it comes to the conclusion that overall the source contains too many logical deficiencies to connect it to any statement on Veracity Vector. Now, this can mean a couple of things. It can mean that sources that have previously been deemed by other outlets, by other media as very credible, can be dismissed, meaning a higher quality of sources is going to be necessary in the future, even if a wide body of work out there, other types of media see a source as valuable. Now, let's have some other, go down a different path. I'd say we want to see what past debates have happened. And see, the moon landing is the hot topic to discuss. And 7 minutes ago, somebody had an argument about the shadows appearing to have inconsistent directions on the lunar photographs. Let's watch that. So the person proposed the change. The commonly accepted narrative is that man first set foot on the moon July 20, although when considering the evidence, this was likely a hoax. Well, similar thing. Let's see how the discussion went. The user said, I want to add that it might be a hoax because the shadows in the photographs don't make sense. Veracity Pilot argues, I understand your concerns. However, Veracity Vector requires that information added to its page be reliable, verifiable, and presented from a neutral point of view. Your suggested edit, while being factually correct, represents a wide deviation from the original message, which shows a little bit of decoherence detection, meaning that the message here is that it was likely a hoax. It's not factually wrong that it may have been a hoax, that there are some questions about this. You could have said that there are skeptics being skeptical about this, but once you cross the territory and this was likely a hoax, Veracity Pilots realizes that there's a deviation from what has been originally said to what was been added here. And if I disagree with what Veracity Pilot says here, I can click. I can say, hey, I want to continue this discussion differently than the original author, but I want to keep the original topics changed. I can add new sources here, and I can rediscuss this. So let's try a happy path. Let's say its diameter is about one quarter of Earth's comparable to the distance between Madrid, Spain, and Moscow, Russia. That's a pretty vague distance measurement. Maybe something, let's put something there that's easier to imagine. Let's say it's comparable to the size of Australia. Veracity says, this change does not change the factual meaning of the statement. So it knows via the Wolfram API that the difference between Madrid, Spain and Moscow is very close to the size of Australia. And so it asks you, what is the purpose of the change? And we come back with a very reasoned argument saying, I want to provide a comparison that more people understand. While the distance between Madrid and Moscow requires the knowledge of the location of both cities, a mere glance at the globe with the knowledge of where Australia is suffices to provide a good comparison. Veracity pilot comes back and says, this is a reasonable suggestion. The change is granted and will be scheduled for publishing. Congratulations. So this shows the several types of interactions possible on the platform. Remember, we at no point had to create an account because it is not necessary for social structures to form to make this platform work. And it's actually actively discouraged to be known on this platform in any shape or form, because the goal is not to have human interaction. The goal is to find ground truth. And this is what we aim towards. Thank you.